Hello and good afternoon, wherever you are. We're talking today about science to data science, PhDs and postdocs moving to industry and startups. I'm going to take you through the program um, for about an hour and a half, talking about how to move from science to data science and actually answering your questions. So I've sent a hello and welcome message to you that on some of the channels you will see. And on the other channels, equally, if you're there, you can always use the chat function. Thank you, Nick, for doing this, for getting in touch. Here's how this is going to work. We have like 90 minutes together, and we have a program. So there's something that is prepared for you. As you can see, a title slide here. So this is prepared in terms of information, but is also prepared in terms of experience. So I'll show you that there's substantial experience behind this. So it's a combination of information and experience. But it exists above all, those 90 minutes exist above all to actually enable you to ask questions from right now. So wherever you are, if you've tuned in and you have questions about how to move from science to data science, then the next 90 minutes is your chance to ask those questions and get some feedback. So let's get going. I'm going to start right away with giving you 10 examples. So, science to data science. If you glance at this, it says it has various names. Hello and welcome, Dina. Good afternoon. So I've done the intro. I'm on the 10 examples. Actually, you've also featured on the list of 10 examples. What I want you to take away from this by looking at it is that these 10 people come from different parts of the world. So anywhere in the world, it's possible to have a data career, and also from anywhere in the world, it's possible to have a data career. The examples that you find listed here are people that are enjoying a data career in Germany or Europe, but principally speaking, it's an international field. Then the next thing I want you to take from this is that whatever academic discipline you come from, it's possible to have a data career. So we have people in the life sciences, we have people in the physical sciences, we have people in medicine, we have people in engineering. Dina's from engineering. We have people even from the social sciences. And what brings all of these people together and makes it possible for them to start a data career is numeracy. So, and with numeracy, I don't mean just mathematics. I mean using numbers, using math, using statistics, and whatever it is they do in terms of studying, possibly also a profession. So the numeracy as a background is what enables the career. And it also, I think, explains why it's so international. And then the next thing I want you to see when looking at this list is that it's 10 examples, and that it's a combination of men and women. Actually, I think the list has 6 women and 4 men. And the point here simply is to make, we know that in tech careers, very often the ratio of men to women is unfortunately like 80 to 20. Sometimes it's 70 to 30. But we're showing you these examples to say that it's possible for both genders. It's equally possible. And that we know enough examples, which is one more reason why Dina is joining us today, that we know enough examples so you can make it work. So from wherever you are, whatever nationality, whatever gender, if you have the numeracy, you can start your data career. And we're here today to show some of this to you, and then also to answer any questions that you might have. I'm going to use the opportunity that Dina is here to actually fast forward and then go back. One moment. So, Dina, hello and welcome again. Can you say a few words about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. So my name is Dina Daifalla, and I've been in data science since 2017, which was also the date when I left academia. So I was in academia for 10 plus years, and I did my master's and PhD in the same discipline, which was electronics and communications engineering. And I think through my coursework and the focus of my PhD, I got introduced to the field of data science, and it has always been on my mind ever since my master's to maybe go out of academia and work. But yeah, it clicked, I think, in the last year of my PhD. And um, the way that I went about it is that I took stock of what I have and what I didn't have, and I needed to make the jump. I learned a little bit on my own using courses, and then I joined a very short virtual boot camp. And I finished that, and then I landed my first job where I was working here in Berlin for a couple of years for a startup in the e-commerce field. And then I went back to teaching data science in a bootcamp academy here. And yeah, this is basically my short version of the story of how I moved to the field.
Perhaps a few more words. I mean, so you've worked as a data scientist, and now you are actually working as an instructor, as a trainer, as a teacher of data scientists, helping to teach the next generation, I guess, of data scientists, possibly also data analysts. Can you say a bit more about your current experience and how you look at starting a job at the moment?
Um, I see that the field have changed from when I was personally applying for jobs in 2017, and then later when I was switching jobs, um, just before I think it was the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. And from the experience of my students, I've already taught students that have graduated the boot camp for the last 14 or 15 months. And since the boot camp length is 3 months, I have seen many classes graduate. And it's still a very healthy job market. I see people either coming from academia or having a numerate master's or PhD, but I'm seeing more and more people who have just finished their bachelor. I've also had a student recently who was doing a bachelor in data science, which was like completely new to me, that there is a program like that. It was in the Netherlands, and and both groups are getting jobs. There are so many titles that fit different backgrounds and different inclinations or interests. So some people get hired as data analysts, some people got hired as data scientists, some got hired as data engineers. Um, and so I feel that the market is now kind of like there are so many new job titles that cover a wide range of skills. Also, we don't forget like business intelligence analysts and marketing analysts. So people who are coming from different background can apply their background into their job search more and more now, and I feel that that's really fortunate, and it's a healthy job market still.
Okay, thank you, Dina. Now, I'm going to go back a few slides, but to those of you watching us, if you would like to start asking questions, please go ahead. I wanted to share with you a quote that we've used many times on data careers. So it says here, no matter who you are, self-improvement is one of the most important and actually most overlooked attributes of young AI talent. And I think Dina was just speaking to self-improvement, so to speak. I mean, working as an instructor means that you're working with people who are actually, accomplishing this self-improvement, if you so like. And then the quote goes on, it only takes 4 years of experience to become a senior, or 5 years of experience to lead. So, and I also personally think that this still holds. This is still true. And maybe it's even more true now than it was like 4 years ago. Why is it more true now? It is more true now because of this. So the market situation. So 2016, 2017, we had some numbers that showed that globally there was a profession of maybe 50,000 people. 5 years later, 2020, 21, last time somebody counted, we had about 500,000. Of this 500,000 professionals, around 99% were working, so to speak, with industry and startups. They're not working on the research side any longer, so 99% were implementing it. This field is still growing rapidly. And you can perhaps use as a benchmark number the number of professional software developers. So the number of professional software developers globally is typically given as around 13 to 15 million. Now, I'm not in a position to exactly tell you that there will be as many data professionals as there will be software professionals, but it is reasonable to assume that the number will keep growing and that it will keep growing rapidly. Therefore, now that there is a sizable field and many companies are doing this and companies are having bigger teams, if you now start in that career, I think this quote here that within 4 years you can become a senior and within 5 you can lead something is even more true, because there are now actually, there's a bigger effort. There are more companies doing this, teams are bigger, and all of this matters for starting the career and then pursuing it and being successful. So I actually exactly expect that over the next 5 years, this is even more rewarding, if you so like. Which means we already got a first comment. Dina, can you see those two in the chat?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I cannot reply
Everybody
in the
wants to
chat.
hire a DS, but many companies don't have proper data infrastructure. Okay, so you are working with people that get hired. How do you see this at the moment?
There was a question that this is the first question that we got because I couldn't type an answer in the chat. Already a question for later. You think it's easier starting from data analytics than moving to data science? It really depends. My answer says that it really depends on your background. If your background was more, let's start also with your goal. If your goal is to work as a data scientist and you have a very strong analytical background, then I don't think that it will be easier, because I think it will have some waste time to start from data analytics. Data analytics are not necessarily an easier job. It's just that sometimes it's a different technology stack. Some data analysts do not actually use Python programming. They use other business intelligence software, like, for example, Tableau. And they also have to deal more and more with database management. And so if you go in that direction hoping to be a data scientist, it's going to take some time and it's a detour. And it is of itself a different kind of job that requires a different tech stack. So if you don't have the programming, like let's say you don't have a strong analytical background and you don't have a programming background, then yes, because as I said, it will not require these skills. And for many people, it's easier to learn a business intelligence software and to learn about databases than to start right away with programming in Python and learning about machine learning. So I don't know if that answered your question or not, but in the end, to sum up, it depends on what is your end goal and what is your background.
Okay. Thank you for that. Shall we pick on the other question of, wanting to hire data analysts or data scientists, but they actually need an infrastructure to be able to work on that?
The business intelligence, or I think if the company doesn't have like data science in its core business idea, then probably it has a business in what they call a business intelligence department. And a business intelligence department is something that many companies are going to have in common, because it's kind of like the steering wheel now of any company. So that means that there are possibly more jobs in the market for a data analyst or a business intelligence analyst or marketing analyst than there is a data scientist. But that's also because there are so many titles that fall under data analysis. And so, yeah, there are more jobs, I think, under that big umbrella. Another point or note that I would like to make about kind of a company having an infrastructure or not. If you're a beginner or this is your first data role, I would really strongly advise against being the first data person or data scientist in the team in a small startup. It's a lot of stress. You will not have a mentor to guide you, and some companies really don't know especially the very, very small startups, they don't know what they need. And so they will make a hire because they have to fill a position that is called a data professional. Uh, but it's not going to be something that you will enjoy, probably. So if it's your first job, try to join a company that has a team. That's even more important than infrastructure, because with a team, with someone more senior than you can build an infrastructure, you can build projects, and you can learn a lot um, along the way that will be really valuable to you in your second and third role.
Thank you for that, Dina. Before we dive into the next question, just for those of us watching, so you see the logo here of the AI Guild if you're watching us on the screen. So both Dina and I are members of the AI Guild. It's a community of practitioners. It says here 1,600. We're now actually 1,800 members. So it's a community of practice for people working in everything from data analytics to computer vision and ML ops. And if you're part of that field and you're doing it, even if you're doing it at university at the moment, you're welcome to join the community and apply through the website. Okay, moving on, and actually the next point I wanted to make is this is the outline of what we want to do with you over the next 90 minutes. So on the one hand, we're going to answer your questions, next one coming up. On the other hand, we're going to go through a few points systematically with you, like, starting a data career, a roadmap to getting hired. We have some thoughts on that. Then we're going to go very pragmatic and look at some key components of what an industry-ready CV looks like that actually gets you interviews. And if there's any time left towards the end, we'll go and have a look at the next years and how we think for that. Okay, as we move forward, so we have a question here. Any thought on what the connections and usefulness there is between mechanical engineering field and data science? Hello, engineer, or at least hello, originally engineer. So you're not a mechanical engineer, but perhaps we can broaden the question to engineering and engineering and analytics, and also perhaps engineering and machine learning. Do you have any insights on that?
Well, I mean, it makes the transition easier if you come from a STEM background. I'm not saying that if you don't, then it's a deal breaker, of course. And STEM is sciences, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And so any of these four, and possibly any other field that deals with analysis of hypothesis testing, of this kind of advanced statistical knowledge and modeling. Maybe, I think for mechanical engineering you must have done quite a bit of modeling as well for processes. All of that is really helpful. It's going to make learning the new skills that you need to be a data scientist or a data analyst much easier on you. But still, I mean, whatever the field that you're coming from, even if it's like mathematics, one has to still learn the things that are important and used in the field of data science and data analysis, like the tools, the actual tech stack that is going to be used.
Okay, thank you. We actually had a comment come in from Ahmed saying, I'm a mechanical engineer and work as a data scientist. It overlaps in the way of engineering thinking and breaking up problems into small solutions, or small solution steps. So there you go. Stephen, you gave us a question. Is there any good example of ML use in design validation and testing? What type of design validation and testing do you mean? So in what industry? What exactly are you referring to before we go to that? Okay, I'm just going to take us a couple of slides forward. So for one, by way of introduction, so Macarena is typically with us. She is not with us today because she's moving house and country. So if you are from the life sciences and you would like to speak with somebody who's been for 4 or 5 years now in data science and has that background, you can go and find Macarena, please, on LinkedIn. And connect with her and say that you were watching this and you have questions for her. That'd be fine. Then Dina already introduced herself. And then myself, So I used to run a boot camp a few years ago. So I actually originally did data work while working for the Max Planck Society in Germany and building out its digital infrastructure, but that's like a decade ago now. I then spent some time actually working as a director of one of the boot camps. So I also have intimate knowledge of people moving from science to data science, besides myself originally having an academic background. Okay, so actually going back to the questions. So Stephen specified that he was thinking about circuit design. Okay, the original question was, is there any good example of ML use in circuit design, validation, and testing? So that the honest answer, Stephen, I have no clue. Dina, do you have any clue? Also not, yeah.
No.
It's just not our area of competence. Okay. Another question that's come in through LinkedIn from Sarah is how to pass the interviews. The field is too broad and my experience is limited. Actually, we're going to answer that. We're going to answer that repeatedly, Sarah. If you were willing to share, what's your experience? Can you say a couple of words on your background? That would be actually really interesting to have as additional information. Okay, so the fastest growing labor market for the highly qualified. I spoke about this at the beginning, and I wanted to take a moment just simply to reiterate. So over 5 years, it grew from 50,000 to 500,000 practitioners. So this is a tenfold. And it is reasonable to expect that in this decade, we will see another tenfold, at least to about 5 million practitioners. So this makes this interesting. And then between Dina and I, including Macarena and other people that have worked in the field, we've just helped a lot of people, seen numerous examples, have an idea of how this works. And then actually how to pass the interviews. So to pick up on that, I mean, you now teach and you have graduates, right? So if somebody came to you and said, I'm getting invited for interviews, but how do I go through the rounds and get a job offer? What would you say?
I think the first thing would be what type of company are you interviewing with? So taking a look carefully at the company, what they do, because the questions that you're going to be asked, aside maybe from if they're giving you a live technical test, which some companies now tend to do. So before, that trend was you're going to have an HR meeting first, or an HR interview first, to check on salary band that you're looking for, your background, tell them a bit about yourself. And when you pass that, they used to give you a take home exercise that they give you maybe a week or a few days to do, and you send back. That exercise usually has to do with the company, so they will give you some of their data with a specific goal and a few questions to answer. And by knowing more about the company, this will already give you some clues and maybe help you give a better solution. But sometimes companies also tell you that you're going to have a live test where they are doing either whiteboard, they're asking you programming questions, and you are talking aloud while you're trying to solve them. These are, I think, the most stressful parts. And the only thing that I would advise to prepare for them is to use one of the many websites that are now available to help people prepare for this kind of whiteboard or live programming tests. I can give you a few examples if Chris can share with you a few things after the session. Is that possible? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. But that would be the first thing. And the second thing, as I said, to use some of these websites, also YouTube videos. There is a lot of YouTube videos that personally helped me in many interviews to recap the things that I knew, or when I was a beginner that I didn't know, but I wanted to quickly understand about like common questions that you could get asked in a data science or a data analyst interview. So basically studying as if you are studying for an exam. And maybe there is something else that I forgot. I think yeah, the fourth interview that you get with the director or the lead of the team will definitely make sure that you fit the team culture and that you kind of are the right person to be in that team. So again, learning a little bit about the profiles of the people that are working there and that will interview you, just going on LinkedIn and checking it out is going to give you some insight on how to, like, what questions you could possibly get asked in that interview. So yeah, this would be kind of like an answer.
Thank you, Dina. I was going so Sarah has posted a bit more information, so I was going to go and address that. So Sarah says she has knowledge of Python and basic statistics, and the Python is NumPy, pandas, and such like. Not too much scikit-learn, a bit of Emma algorithms as well. So actually Python experience, but Python experience with some of the libraries that you would typically perhaps use in data analytics more, not so much machine learning experience. And I wanted to put this together with another question, so to speak, about statistical knowledge coming from Stephen. So, how much statistics or how much statistical knowledge do you need? Let me answer it like this. So there are things that take years. And this is what I meant also with numeracy. So numeracy is an investment that typically starts at some point in your life during school. Yeah, it's perhaps also the subjects that you choose. And then it continues at university, and it's about the degrees that you take. And there are, of course, there are disciplines in which it also depends then on the concrete study path, and sometimes it's very obvious, that it kind of goes in the direction where the jump to data science or data analytics is then easy. So let's take the life sciences. Assume you're studying biology. If you're then studying bioinformatics, you are nearly there just because of that. Okay. Or if you're in an engineering degree and you're working a lot with applied mathematics, this also puts you very close. So what I want to say is that these more fundamental issues of numeracy and statistics, they take many years, and they are different than learning the Python. And then the teaching, the boot camps, the instruction, the switching to a data analytics or data science career in the past years and also for the next years really is on the idea that what people then learn additionally is the Python or the R or the SQL or the usage of Tableau or other sorts of softwares. And this is something that you can learn faster, which is also why the bootcamp model, so learning it quickly in 3 months or 6 months, is so widespread. So I think this is exactly what you can do. And then there is yet another component to it that was also in Sarah, in what you were saying, so to speak, this question of, okay, so I have already used Python. And by the way, an observation I have is, like 5 years ago, master's or PhD students were still typically using MATLAB. Now everybody is using Python or R. So I'm also assuming that those with us today, you probably have that experience, and that's all good. And actually that helps to qualify you, or possibly actually already qualifies you. Because the other thing is, Dina was alluding to this, so and we had this question about data infrastructure. So companies are working on data, companies have data. Not many companies yet have integrated data infrastructure in which you can have large scale data readily usable for building pipelines for machine learning. This not a lot of companies have. But in the sense of analytics, and then in the sense of Python, the NumPy and the Panda, there are lots of opportunities. And I think, Dina, you can disagree in a minute, but I think it is perfectly feasible to say, you can start in the data analytics role, camp, and grow into a data science role. And this also goes to, there was an additional question that I want to tackle in talking about this. It was about networking during the job search. So I think an additional really important issue is, where do you want to go? So which industry, what type of company do you want to join? And let me I give you an idea like this. So there was this one Stanford professor in the actually Stanford computer science department that a few years ago noticed that the most interesting projects in machine learning were given to him not by the CS graduates, but by the graduates from other faculties that were joining. So they came from, I don't know, agriculture or medicine or engineering or finance. So they had domain expertise. Yeah, they had an intrinsic interest in something financial or in something agriculture, and were then looking to computer science and analytics or machine learning to develop novel solutions to known problems in their domain. And that was, they had the edge because they had the domain expertise and and then the analytics or machine learning, and that they were learning this. And so if you're thinking, interviews or job search or networking, one really important and fundamental way you can help yourself in is by understanding for yourself where you would like your journey to take you. Yeah, what kind of industry you want to be working in, and what's your domain, and then do something. And I see Dina nodding, so over to you for more comments on that.
Yes, absolutely. As I said, it's a really good trend that more and more I see. Also, I saw this in my graduated students who landed jobs right away, is that they already came to the bootcamp with that idea in mind. For example, I had multiple students who are doctors. So they are trained doctors who has worked as doctors, and the latest one was an anesthesiologist who had in mind that he wanted to work for a company that is promoting the use of machine learning, of computer vision, in order to detect cancer, and a specific types of cancer that already there are some published work on. And he landed that job right away because he had the edge, like Chris said. I also saw it in my own experience. My PhD was in the field of a wireless sensor network, something that is very engineering based, but it was in the end, it was what we call an MP hard optimization problem. And I used some stochastic algorithms to solve that. And because I had that experience in optimization, I was hired by a company, even though I did not have any experience, like as a data scientist who was working on a very difficult optimization problem in the field of e-commerce. And so my expertise kind of like was the link there, and it what got me the job, even though I didn't have, and I've seen that in questions, I have very limited experience. Well, we all have to start somewhere, but it's very useful that one doesn't dump their expertise, especially if they have worked in it or studied for a few years, and already have domain knowledge there. So yeah,
Okay.
it's the
Yeah.
edge is really important. Mhm.
Thank you, Dina. I've moved on us forward a slide to show you. We've already spoken about data roles, right? Data analyst, data scientist, data engineer. So I'm showing you this slide. What data role do I seek to kind of alert you to the fact that there are different roles, and then connect it to the next question that came in. What is the minimal skill set or experience to land an ML engineering role? Asked Hitchem. That's actually interesting because at least from where I sit, I think that a true ML engineering role does have different requirements perhaps than a data role, in the sense that I think for an ML engineering role these days, you actually do need a CS background, computer science background, or substantial prior programming experience. And this would mean, two things. One, when people talk about data scientist or data analyst, one quick question is to ask, so you're using Python, what are your favorite libraries? How much have you been working with sklearn, with scikit-learn? So, and if somebody says, yes, I've been using scikit-learn a lot, or I know how it works, and so on, it puts you closer to the data science role in the sense of machine learning. Whereas if scikit-learn, PyTorch, and a few others, you're not a user, then you're probably more in the analyst camp. But if you now say, okay, machine learning engineering role, I would probably say that on your CV, you would also be able to claim that you have worked with C++ or with Java, or that you've done programming projects before, that you know something about how to do version control, that you've pushed something to production. So I think a machine learning engineering role has more of this computer science or programming background, and that would somehow need to be visible to qualify, as this kind of like minimal skill set that you need to actually have a real chance, not just to get an interview, but to get the job offer on the table. Dina, I see you nodding. Would you argue in the same direction?
Yes, absolutely. It's one of the more difficult jobs, I would say, and I feel that it's almost not a beginner's job at all.
At all, exactly. Okay, then I want to pick up two more. So Pragati and Steve, these are your questions. Let's first pick up the one on many companies are particularly already having some years of experience, of industry experience, even for entry-level jobs, and how to deal with that actually. And then trained academics do not even get to reach the technical screening level. So you could comment in a minute as well. I guess you've seen this. I've also seen this. And okay, there are a number of things to be said about this. So first of all, yes, companies sometimes do that. And if they absolutely insist that it needs to have been prior industry experience, possibly in the same industry, and you don't have it, well, then you don't have it. But now comes the but part. First of all, if you've been working with Python in academia or R or just generally working with data, you have data experience, you have valuable data experience. And I would like to think of it like this. So if your master thesis, PhD work, postdoc, whatever it is that you're doing, includes this substantial data experience, you need to find a way of highlighting it. You need to find a way of really making clear that you are a data practitioner. And I also personally think, and know other people that think the same, that this type of real life working experience in academia is much more valuable than a capstone project in an online course. Yeah, so I also really want to push the point that if you've done this in academia, it is valuable and you should defend it. And it's more valuable than 1, 2, 3, 4 capstone projects done in some online course. Okay, you do have substantial experience, and maybe if you're feeling frustrated in your application process and you're not getting past the initial screening, you also need to change then your way of approaching a job. So one is you highlight your data experience, but two is when you apply, don't go for the front door. So don't go for the front door means don't just apply to HR. Okay. If you're really interested in a company, find a way. We had this question already about networking. Find a way of connecting to somebody already working at that company and talking with them about their experience and their data skills, so you better understand what it is that they already do, and that allows you to kind of emphasize this, and or perhaps get the data practitioner to forward your CV to HR for screening. That also helps. But so that's another way of doing something different for an entry level job. Dina, over to you.
Yes, I also agree with what you said. I feel that again the edge comes into play here, because if you think from the company's perspective, I've recently posted about this in LinkedIn. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that even bigger companies who can afford to hire beginners, train them, and retain them, and they need that talent, some of them don't do that. Some of them do, and many don't, because they want to minimize risk. And I think maybe that's the way that the market changed a little bit during the pandemic, is that everyone is looking to minimize risk in their hires. But again, like Chris said, if you do have that know-how of that specific field, let's say, for example, you studied marketing, or you studied business administration, and you understand quite well the metrics that are used in business in order to check a performance of a company, and so you are already in a very good place to learn data science on top. You already have the statistical background. You just need a few tools to learn, and a capstone project or a short bootcamp or something similar, and then you are in a very good place to get hired as a data analyst. So that's an example of using your background. Same with the medical doctor example that I just gave. Same for me. Same for basically anyone who had like a traditional path in the university, they studied something, and that's something. This is the boom that we're seeing right now. Most fields are looking to use machine learning and data science in their field in order to join the revolution, right? And yeah, then they'll be looking for someone who has the domain knowledge and who has enough skills. Enough skills is the key word here to do the job. So it's not impossible, and don't get discouraged by people asking for, I don't know, 15 years of experience using Python, because yeah, so most of the time that's ridiculous. Just apply anyway, and it's a chance game, numbers game.
Thank you, Dina. I would also invite you to pick up on the questions from Stephen or the comments from Stephen coming in here. So this is actually about an open space area where you can contribute code and at the same time learn ML. I'm asking you, so putting the question in your path, so to speak. So you work with people that are actively upgrading their coding skills. I have an idea what the answer might look like, but if somebody came to you and said, where can I keep practicing? Where can I show it to somebody? What would you tell them?
Meetups. So attending meetups is a way first to connect, because companies who are looking to hire host meetups in order for people to present, and they also present about their company and they advertise the open roles. And I see that being used more than posting the job actually on LinkedIn or Indeed or something similar. So you already have an edge if you attend meetups in the industries that you wish to be hired in. You also get to chat with the people, as Chris said, and understand what is the tech stack that they need. In order to keep training, I know it gets a lot of negative feedback, but Kaggle is actually also a very good source. Not to compete only, but actually to look at other people's code and how do they handle data analysis and building models. And for example, I used to work for a company that advertised on Kaggle the open job. So they are looking to post jobs where they will possibly be seen by talented or people with the skills that they are hoping to hire. And so just being in that sphere, attending meetups for data science or data analysis, and you will find many, many of them, and being training yourself on Kaggle and having a good GitHub portfolio. And also a third avenue is to check data science for good. There are multiple organizations that have data sets that are supplied by the government, or um, basically they are targeting a specific problem in the society where data is collected, and it's unpaid work. But if you have the time, this could be because you are applying your newly acquired skills on actual data sets that are collected from real life. So having already a couple of projects is very important, because the technical interview have to tackle something concrete and have to talk to you about some experience. So highlighting that experience in your CV is going to make a whole lot of difference, I think, to get invited to technical interviews.
Okay, thank you for that, Dina. I'm going to wrap up this part that we're talking about at the moment by pointing you to a slide that you're seeing at the moment where it says corporate startup and consulting. So what we would like you to consider or think about is, we've already spoken about data roles, so data analyst, machine learning engineer, data scientist. We've also spoken about the value of domain expertise or the practical expertise that you have from your prior data work. And in this terms of where to, something else that you need to consider is, do you prefer corporate, startups, or consulting? Perhaps you already know, great. If you don't know, also a good idea to find out. The context of this is that the more specific you are about where you would like your career to take, the easier it becomes for people in that area where you want to go to actually be interested in you, right? So if you know that you want to work in pharma and you have analytics skills, right? And that you actually prefer a corporate environment or you work for a consultancy firm, the easier it would be for a company that is in that sector to say, okay, so this person has worked out that they're looking for us. So actually we want to talk to them because they're looking for us. And we think that we already know that they're just randomly looking for a job. They're actually looking for a job in the where we are and what we have to offer. And that really helps. So and I'm saying it like this because too often I have met people that think they should keep their options open, and keeping their option open actually means at the end of the day that they just sound vague. They don't have a clear strategy. And vagueness really is a killer. If you're vague, if your CV isn't clear, if you can't say what you're looking for, then the other side has no way of understanding whether you're interesting to talk to and will actually think the other way around. Not clear to me, probably a time waster, doesn't know what they want, I'm not engaging. Yeah, so you actually don't get the interview. So by being vague and by being open, you're hurting your own chances. So this slide is here to remind you to really get specific. If you need help with determining which industry, this slide is here to tell you. You can find so-called market maps by using a search engine. So find market maps for artificial intelligence, find market maps for startups, find market maps, and they give you certain kinds of categories that you can help to use to structure your search and figure out where you might want to go when you want to move forward. And we're going to be moving now in the second part that we have together today more into the direction of, how do you structure that search and how should your CV look? So this slide here is then to remind you that once you have an idea or as you have an idea where you want to go, your CV actually needs to achieve 4 things to be considered industry ready. So you need to be able to highlight your technical skills. And I can't repeat this often enough. Your technical skills need to be at the top of your CV, or they should feature on your LinkedIn profile in the About section. And you need to structure your technical profile so that somebody else at a glance gets what it is that you can do and are looking for. So this isn't just a list of everything you've ever done technically. It is a profile that shows you as more of a data analyst or more of a data scientist or more of a data engineer, uses certain key concepts or stuff to structure your technical skills. So it might say, I don't know, data analytics, and then give certain Python libraries that you've used, or maybe an R library. It might say something about statistics and then show certain kinds of prior statistical experience that you have. Maybe also indicate your programming proficiency. So you could say Python 2 years, R 1 year, SQL 6 months, something like this, so that the other side at a glance gets what your profile is, not just what you've done, the profile. So number 1. Number 2 is you actually also need to consider your business or organization skills. So this other part, Dina spoke about this already. She said, so as you go through the rounds of interview, they're going to start checking you for fit to the company and also fit to the company culture. And that actually includes this part of, do you have a skill set? Do you know what project management is? Can you communicate well? Can you be relied on to communicate proactively? Can you present something? How do you work in a team? So number 2, really important. Number 3, we also spoke about your data experience. So if you have real life data experience in academia, make sure to highlight it. It's valuable, and most companies now understand that this is a wonderful preparation if you want to move to industry or a startup. And the final point here is that you can really help yourself with a professional mission. And I've just been speaking to that a lot in the sense of, what domain do you want to be in? What type of company do you want to work for? Also, when are you available? Yeah, if you can say you're looking from, I don't know, January 2023, that gives companies a timeline. And sometimes this also includes stating where you're looking. So, if you're looking in a particular city, so if it's Madrid only, it's Madrid only. If it's Madrid and all of Spain, you can say Madrid or Spain. If it's Munich, it's Munich. If it's Munich and Germany, it's Munich and Germany. These things help company to understand whether you're available, whether you're interesting, and help encourage them to approach you. This is the stuff that I would like to say. And then final comment on visa, local language, and more. Dina, actually over for you for commenting on this. So what's your take these days on local language and visa when you look at your participants and graduates?
Most of my students are international students, so I would say maybe students who are able to speak German are about maybe 25 to 35% of each cohort. And I see the language barrier kind of being the same in the last few years as it was when I was last interviewing for a job. But my conviction is that, and I think it just makes sense that if you have the edge of speaking fluent English and fluent German, and by fluent I'm talking C1 for German at least, and maybe even B2 if you are comfortable and you're training yourself by speaking every day. If you have that, then there is a wider market, there is a wider job market, because and you will see that many of the bigger national companies in Germany still have the culture of speaking German in the workplace, even if the technical teams in between themselves, because they are international, are speaking English as a common language. So kind of like the official language of the company is German, and some of the data that you're going to see is going to be in German, and so having German fluency is important. But if you're a beginner and you're also a new to the country and you don't speak the language, there are still enough of a job market for only English speakers, because this is what I've seen, that my international students who don't speak German still get hired in a timely manner.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that. So I'm going to move us a little bit further into the second to actually solicit a second round of questions. So if you're still watching us, here is what I would like you to think about, and then perhaps also articulate your questions. So this section is kind of like a roadmap to getting hired, and something that we know from experience over the last years is that getting hired is kind of like a journey of 6 to 9 months. It may include just switching from academia, getting your CV ready, going for interviews, and then Dina mentioned it's a bit of a numbers game, so it takes a bit of time. And then at some point you get hired, or maybe you finished your PhD and you're ready to get hired. So like 6 to 9 months. It also means that if you are in the second year of your PhD, it's interesting to acquire Python skills, but you're not at this point where you are actually, with 2 years advance, it's too long a timeline. So 6 to 9 months. Okay. So, and in this 6 to 9 months, you are probably in one of the following. Yeah. The data career exploration phase, kind of like your domain choice that we spoke about, search versus training that we're going to talk about again in a minute. And Sarah has more questions about boot camps. So, Dina actually works as a bootcamp instructor, so she can say more to that in a minute. And then the actual start. And the invitation for you in terms of asking questions is now, give it a thought where you are at the moment, and then perhaps you have a most pressing question where you are, okay? So what does data career exploration mean? Data career exploration simply means you're at this point where I think, or we think, you need to make a decision, yes or no. Red light, green light. Green light means you pursue a data career, and red light means actually perhaps it's not your choice. And how do you do that? So what can you do to be sure about red light or green light? So obviously, maybe you're a Python user and maybe you love data and actually you already know. Super. Maybe you don't quite know. So then and you're still learning Python. So then a really important question is, can you actually do this for 8 hours a day? And can you do this 5 days a week? It's not like you will be programming or doing data like 40 hours every week, but actually, do you like it? Are you comfortable with this? Is this what you want to do? Online courses or learning with books or just doing something can help you understand whether this is for you. So if you're not sure, find that out. And then the other question, of course, is do you actually want a career in this? And then the best way for doing this is to go and talk to other practitioners. So Dina already mentioned, you can go to meetups. At meetups, you can meet other practitioners. You may also meet companies. You can go in your own network. If you have a LinkedIn profile, you can find in your network probably people that have a data career. You can go and ask them. You can reach out to people in your alumni network from your university, or if if you've already done online courses, there must also be prior participants that now have a data career. What I'm trying to say is go and talk to an actual data person, ask them about their job, and you will get a pretty good idea whether you really want to do this. And if this is what you want to do, good, go for it. And then Dina, you now have students and you have graduates. How much do you connect your students to your graduates and the alumni?
Well, actually, most of them hear about. Do you mean about the AI Guild,
No, yeah,
or no?
I mean about your Spiced Academy.
So our alumni, so
Hmm.
we kind of like have a Slack channel where we all get connected. But I personally keep connected to some of my students who, at some point in the future, need to have a reference when they are interviewing for jobs, or have a question about maybe how they should evaluate a specific job offer. So this is why kind of like I have some information about what they do after. But we also monitor the ratio of students or graduates who actually get hired, and it's hovering around 80% for the last few years.
Okay. So, thank you. So, if you're watching today and you are still at this exploration stage, right? So you're wondering, do I really want to do a data career, or maybe you've already decided you want to do a data career? If this is where you are, and you have a question for us, or actually a question would be to you, what's the uppermost question you have in your mind at the moment? And then if you're willing to put it in the chat, please do so. So let's assume you've reached a green light and you want to pursue a data career. Then the next really important part is this domain choice part. So you may be thinking, do I have enough technical skills? How can I acquire more skills? Do I need to do more learning? Yes, this may be true, but you can only actually reliably find out if you know where you want to go, because it's the destination that you want to reach that defines what kind of skills you still need or perhaps don't need. And we already spoke a little bit about this. So if you've been using Python for 2 years and you've been doing a lot of Panda and NumPy, but you haven't been doing PyTorch or scikit-learn or something like this, then you are at this level where you can successfully do a data analyst job, but perhaps not a data scientist job if this means machine learning. And then, you'd need to figure out where you want to go. How many data analyst jobs are there? Or are there many useful things that you can do with data analytics? Or is it data science? And then think of it like this. So, true to some extent as an example, think of it like this. If you want to work in a big tech company, so this is a company that was founded at some point in the last 20 years. It's all online. It's digital only. Probably is an app on your phone. And is in general a tech player. And I don't just mean a generic tech player. It can also be a tech player for e-commerce or for fashion or for delivery or whatever. But it's generally a digital only company of a reasonable size, 500, 1,000, 5,000 employees, been around for a while, is large and has a working data infrastructure. Okay. Then indeed they have this. And if you want to work as a data scientist, you need that real skill set. So you'll be using Python for a lot, and you also know what a data pipeline is, and you've done something with machine learning. So if this is the type of company that you would want to work for, then you would need further skills, actually, if you don't yet have them. And maybe training is the right thing, or maybe you have to start on a job and acquire them, but something like this. But another example. Let's say you want to work in a pharmaceutical company that's been around for 100 years, and there are a lot of them. Then they do actually have a lot of roles in the analytics field, it can be analytics around the product, or it can be analytics around actually clinical trials, or it can be analytics around their marketing, and they will have lots of this. And you, if you want to join the pharma sector, also need the pharma knowledge. So if you're out of biomedicine, great, you're really close, but you need more of that domain expertise. So starting in pharma as a data analyst and then doing a boot camp later, or learning on the job and then moving into a more machine learning role is easier done, say, in this type of pharma corporate that's been around for 100 years than it is done in tech companies only been here for 20 and is actually already large and does everything online and has more digital data that they can possibly make sense of, or something like this. So you need to look at this. What's your domain choice, to then make an informed decision what you still want to learn, because you don't want to learn forever. You actually want a job. And this is also, I mean, Dina's question. So back to you. So you have students at the moment, right? They come to you for 3 months. Probably, I'm guessing also from my own experience, sometimes after 3 months you think, okay, now I really know what I don't know, or what I'm not good at yet. Then they look at you, and what do you tell them? I mean, you have to tell them to go and get a job. So how do you handle that situation?
So actually, also answering the question about the bootcamp, and then I have to excuse myself after answering that question to teach a class.
Yep.
So in Germany, there are multiple boot camps in data science and data analytics that can be paid by the Agentur für Arbeit. And for example, when I back in 2017, when I was looking for something like this, I didn't know that information. So if you don't know that information, this help is available. So if you are registered in Germany as in between jobs, like a person who is not hired, there is a possibility that you get funded funds from the Agentur für Arbeit to attend job related trainings like a boot camp in order to get hired. And for example, the boot camp that I'm teaching in, which is called Spiced, there is actually some hand holding in that process when you are applying as a candidate. So you get tested, that you did some studying on your own, and you do have that that background in your own studies, like the basics of statistics. You can do some programming, and then you get some hand holding on how to navigate the German bureaucracy of getting that fund. Once you get in, and again, this is not just Spice, but many other boot camps, you have a specific period of time where you do projects, and this is where you're getting your projects that you're going to put in your GitHub repo for a portfolio to discuss with future employers. But also in Spiced, we have a career coach that guides you through the process of building your CV, narrowing down what you want to apply for, given your background, and working with you on getting through the initial shield of the HR interview and getting to the stage where you're getting technical interviews. So many of the students actually, before they graduate, are already interviewing. So yeah, I hope that answered the question. Was there another question, Chris?
No, thank you, Dina. Thank you for today. You mentioned that you actually have to go and teach right now, which is fine. I will cover the last 25 minutes.
And please, everyone, thank you so much for attending. And if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, so my name is Dina Daifala, and my affiliation is currently Spice. So I think you will find me easily on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to connect. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Dina. Okay, so I'm going to take over from here. So I think the point that I wanted to make is you need to have an idea where you want to go, what your destination is, and then you can make some informed choices about search versus training. And I'm going to pick up a comment that Sarah left here, but we are able to learn machine learning to some level and then get hired as a data scientist. Yes, you are. Yeah. And switches are possible from data analyst to data scientist, or also into data engineering. If you really enjoy doing programming work, if you really enjoy coding. Also, it is still possible to move with an academic background in STEM to move into a machine learning engineering role. This is also possible. And then there are also new types of roles emerging, like the NLP person or the computer vision practitioner. And here, you have text data or image data or video data or something like this. So you have a certain type of data that is also often very domain specific and has a lot of context. Just think text data, yeah. Think natural language processing. Think natural language processing in the insurance industry, yeah, where you have lots of insurance contracts. Or think about these large language models that have become prominent over the past years, and there are specific American companies like Hugging Face or OpenAI that you may have heard of that have these large language models that make them also available to other companies to build applications on top of it. We use voice for search now, which is also connected to machine learning and AI. So there are lots of new roles and new fields emerging that if you in your PhD or your academic work have been working a lot with text data or a lot with image data, then this also more readily translates into an NLP engineer role or a computer vision engineer role. So you need to look at that and then make a decision about search versus training. And the point I want to make generally is you want to start a job. So your priority should be to get the interviews and get the job offer on the table. If in that process you find that you absolutely want to do some more upskilling, please do so. That's fine. And then also be aware of it's also always possible to do upskilling on the job or do something later. So you need to look at this. It depends on you. And the one thing I don't want you to do is to go around in circles thinking you need more technical skills. Very likely you don't. You just need to go through the interview process, and that might be more important. Okay, if you're then in that interview process and you're starting something there, I have kind of like two messages that I think are important here. One is when you're so if you're actually in this process where you're applying and you're getting interviews or not getting interviews, it is important to understand that going through the front door, applying to HR on that official company email is something you can do, but it's only one possible way of doing it, okay? The other is to use your network contacts and to work with recruiting firms, because direct applications at entry level maybe cover half the jobs. After entry level, it's significantly less than half the jobs, it still is. And the other jobs are filled through contacts or recruiting firms, or by meeting companies at meetups, or by going to a conference and by talking to somebody who already works in the company and doing other kinds of things. And that is a much more interesting or valuable way of moving forward. So this is number one. And number two is if the job offer comes on the table, there is typically not a lot to negotiate there. So, it's a standard contract. It has certain kinds of requirements in it. It will include your job description. And actually, the company needs all of this. And the one thing that you can negotiate on is your salary. So one thing. And then here, the main point I want to make is you should be ready to say something. You might well get asked, what is your salary expectation? And it's really smart to have an intelligent answer. And your intelligent answer means that you typically don't just have a number, but that you've done a little bit of research and you can express the value that you bring. So done a little bit of research is like, what is actually the salary range that's typical? Then also have a little bit of value. So what kind of experience I have, prior qualifications. So in that range, where am I roughly? So you can say like, I'm expecting 60 to 65 or something like this, or 70 to 75, whatever it is. And then also, if you get a chance to kind of turn it around and actually ask the company, so what's your budget for the role? Yeah, because they will also typically have a range. So they will have a range in mind, somewhere we say between 55 and 70. They might even be able to express what they think is closer to 55 or what's closer to 70. So you can use that for orientation purposes. And I'm mentioning this because I have too often, really too often, seen that somebody didn't get the job because they had completely outlandish salary expectations. So they got asked, and then they said 85, but actually the typical average industry salary for that role was 65, and the company had a budget of 60 to 70. And because they said 85, the company said, no, that's so far away from what we would even consider that this is the end of, we won't even negotiate. It's outlandish. So this mistake. And the other mistake that I've had seen too often is that then somebody says, I'm expecting like 50, but the company also had a budget of 60 to 70. And then two things happen. Either of two things happen. Actually, also the interview is terminated because the company goes like, okay, we were thinking 60 to 70. We actually, they only, so, lack of confidence probably doesn't match. So bye. Or you actually do get a contract for 50, but 6 months later, you find out you should have gotten 65. And then that's the problem. So look at it. Have a range. Have some arguments. Don't make sure you complete this last step successfully. You get the salary you deserve in the budget range that the company is expecting. That's what I want to say. Really important. Okay, I want to move on to this industry-ready CV. A comment or question from Kati. I've been self-learning data science since March 2022 alongside my PhD. So hello, Kati, that's like 6 months now. I already have experience in Python during my PhD. Currently, I'm building a few projects on my own. Okay, so I'm expecting from what you said here that you've been doing Python for longer than 6 months. You can correct me, but I'm now going to assume that you started Python in 2021 or even earlier. That means you are probably already a proficient Python user. That's great. And now you're on top kind of learning things around data science, which I mean, so if you're saying data science, I'm probably assuming that you're trying to run projects, building your own projects that include algorithms that would be considered machine learning. Maybe it's a fancy neural network. Maybe it's just a regression. Maybe it's something else, SVM, decision tree, random forest, don't know, but that you're using some of the known machine learning algorithms and understanding how they work. So if you are, you started in 2018, okay, yes, good. But this is the point then. So you shouldn't just be hopeful, you should be confident. This means you have 4 years of Python. That's super. That means you are a proficient user, and that's what companies need most of all, proficient Python users. Because the other truth is, it really helps if you have some experience, I don't know, with classical machine learning, the random forest SVM stuff, or if you have something with neural networks. It actually doesn't help companies a lot if you have the latest deep reinforcement learning DUMF, because it's only like 2% of the companies worldwide that would have use cases where you would want to use reinforcement learning. So it's typical analytics, standard data science, classical machine learning. And then you're building this, and I think actually you're good to go. It now depends whether you want a ML heavy data science role, then maybe yes, you need more training. But if you don't need an ML heavy data science role at the moment, I think you're good to go and you should be applying. And what you should really be doing is getting that industry ready CV and getting your LinkedIn profile to align so that the CV and the LinkedIn profile carry the same message about your technical profile and the role you're looking for. And you should be applying to companies and getting those interviews. That's why I think you are. Okay. And I want to dive into some examples for the remainder of the time that we have, because I mentioned technical skills and I said, how important it is. So here is what a technical profile actually looks like. Okay. So you can see it states bluntly technical skills. Then it says how many years of Python and some other programming languages. Then for Python, it enumerates standard libraries or tools that have been used frequently. And then it says something about ETL and data processing and something about DevOps. Now, this is a profile that you can easily recognize as a combination either of engineering heavy data analytics or even data engineering. This is what this says. Okay. It's also a really interesting profile because data engineers at the moment are a scarce resource and get more money than analysts or scientists at the moment. So There you go. Yeah, pipelines, processing, DevOps. It's interesting. And by the way, in certain academic disciplines, you are like a data engineer. So one of my favorite ones is in the domain of physics. You have astrophysicists or radio astronomers. So if you've ever met a radio astronomer, you know that they're spending years handling huge amounts of data that are collected by these radio telescopes, and they're basically data engineering them. They're building pipelines, they're analyzing. So yes, it's in academia, and yes, it's radio astronomy, and yes, radio astronomy isn't an industry, but they are in many ways ready to be data engineers in a variety of industries because they have this prior experience. So here is example number one. Let's give you another example. So this is somebody that has been a Python developer. So Kati, like you know, years of Python experience, actually contributed to the development of a library that is used in academia a lot, that is available in open source. And then it says here, data analytics, databases, statistics and modeling, and data visualization. Okay, so this is like I'm really proficient at Python, and I'm more in the data analytics field. Got hired by a big tech company. And it kind of makes it clear, I can do the analytics, I handle the databases, and I can do the visualization. And that's really important, in an analytics role. And visualization also pays forward on this idea that you can communicate things and that you can find a visual way of communicating data insights. So that really helps. Example number 2 of technical skills. And here's number 3. Again, it lists Python and MATLAB and C++ and Bash and Git and SQL. So, just gives a quick list, so to speak, of the basic capacities indicating proficiency. And then it says data analysis, data visualization. Then it says machine learning. And under machine learning, it specifically just says scikit-learn, just to, get across the point that the basics are there. And then there's a twist to this in the sense that it says IoT, IoT, Internet of Things. So there's experience with hardware, with bringing together code and hardware and doing something with the hardware that is driven by some analytics capability. So this is what a technical skills profile looks like. And if you see it, the point here is a hiring manager, human resources, anybody looking at this gets a good impression in 30 seconds or less. This should be at the top of your CV, and you should copy it to your LinkedIn About section, because this is the fastest way in which somebody can say, okay, they got the technical skills. Python 4 years. They already used some SQL. Okay, and they've done some machine learning. Interview. Okay, this is interesting. Let's interview them. Let's find out more, because this is the point. You're applying and you want the other side to say, okay, I want to find out more. Let's talk to the person. Let's talk to you. So your technical skills is the one thing that does most for this, because you're looking for a technical role. So you got this sorted on LinkedIn and your CV. That really, really, really helps a lot. Okay, then the other thing is, I spoke about the fact that at the second glance, so the second glance, of course, is, okay, they've got the technical skills, but the second glance is, can they actually work with us, for us, at our companies, in our team? Now, if you're straight out of academia, there's such a concept as transferable skills. You can type transferable skills into a search engine. It'll show you essentially the same thing. So the idea here is you've acquired skills around project management, communication, presentation, writing, analytic thinking, possibly running community, something. And these are transferable to other contexts, transferable skills. And you should also collect them and be able to highlight them on your CV. Typically, actually, at the end of the CV, this is a great section to kind of close off your CV and show them. And it's also worth, if you have LinkedIn, on your LinkedIn, you have your experience section, you have various positions. And if you're doing a PhD, you should include it not just in education, but also in work experience. And in the work experience, you could list some of the things that you've been doing that show that you have these organizations or business skills around communication, around analysis, around presenting, around things that you've done, project management, and so on. That really helps the other side to understand that, you have the technical, but you also have the organization and business skills. And I'm not using the word soft skills, please note, because they aren't necessarily soft. They can also be hard analytic skills. Yeah, but you have additional skills that are relevant to moving a team, a company forward, and for you to contribute and have impact beyond the technical. Yeah, and this is really important. So here's another example to look at where it says project management, communication, strategic thinking, expertise sharing. So a number of things that you are good at. And type in transferable skills into a search engine, it'll give you more examples. Okay, moving on. I've spoken about data experience, and you had some questions around this. So you need to verbalize this. You need to be able to summarize this. And I actually recommend you stick it on your CV. And again, if you have your LinkedIn and your PhD or postdoc position is part of your professional experience, you can also do it here. And there's a really easy way of thinking about your data experience. Yes, it's academic. Yes, it's specific. And then science communication, Open Science Day, Science Night. You know these things, you have participated in these things possibly, and you know the challenge of explaining what you're doing to your parents or your grandmother or something like this. And this is the point. You take your data experience and you find a way of writing it down, as you can see here, like in 5 lines and 3 bullet points or something like this, but you do it in a language that a non-specialist, that your grandmother would be able to follow. Now, they will not understand completely because they don't have your domain expertise, but they should be able to follow. So you need to keep it really simple. This is your science communication exercise. Done well, it really helps the company to build confidence in your experience and, really interesting, confidence in your communication expertise to tell other people how data works and what to do with data. Because data literacy is a wonderful aspiration, and the literacy aspiration is always 100%. So most companies do dream about becoming more data literate. And then the other truth is that the population in the company actually working with data will be 0.5%, 1%, 2%. You want to enlarge the data literacy to 5%, 10%, 15%. And if you can demonstrate that you can talk about data and your experience so that your grandmother can follow, this is really interesting for companies because you can be trusted to help them become more data driven. Yeah. Typically, it's just an aspiration. And to make it happen, you need people that can speak data in plain language. So if you can show that, kudos to you. Here's another one now called a data vignette. It's just text. It's just 6 lines. Something like this will do. The point is, you can choose. You can just highlight something. It's something you would like to communicate that's kind of like interesting. Include that on your CV, goes a long way. Yet another one, I'm going to skip in the interest of time to go and show you in our final round some search and mission statements. So you are now searching, you are getting interviews or not getting interviews, and you're wondering, is there anything I can do to improve my situation, to get more interviews or to get interviews with companies I would really care about? Yeah, there is. There's something that you can do, and I would call this your search and mission statement. So this is the point that you actually verbalize at the very top of your CV or in the about section on LinkedIn, who you are professionally, what your strong suit is, and what you're looking for. And here's an example. It says, I'm a data analyst. So it says, I'm a data analyst, not I'm a PhD researcher, or I'm a postdoc, or I'm a master's student, or whatever. You state the role you want to be hired for and how you want to be judged and looked at. I'm a data analyst. And then you can say, with a background in environmental engineering, okay, that's your academic background, actively looking for a new role in Berlin, Amsterdam, or another metropolis. It matters. If the company is in Berlin or Amsterdam and you said you want to be in Berlin or Amsterdam, they will look at you. If you say nothing, they don't know whether you're just looking for a job or you actually want to be in Berlin, okay? And then it says, I'm well-versed in utilizing services and packages, for example, AWS, Tableau, and so on. So you kind of point to something that if you were challenged on it, also challenged technically on it, you would pass with flying colors. So you're good at this, okay? The hearing also includes the statement, working with data gives me flow. And then a statement, what am I looking for? A dynamic startup or a company in an increasingly data-driven industry. So, this kind of thing. Next example for you. So here's another one. I'm a data scientist with a PhD. So again, the role, then you do acknowledge you have a PhD, which is great, on regularization theory and optimization. Of course, that's a PhD that's really close to a data role. I have 4+ years of experience in data processing and modeling. I'm looking for a new challenge in Barcelona, Madrid, or Lisbon. I personally actually got hired in Barcelona from October, so-and-so, potential in a leading business team, mitigating climate change or reducing the carbon footprint. So he also had a clear idea where he wanted to be, and actually he got exactly that. So he got that in Barcelona with this type of mission statement, because it helped the company in Barcelona to see, okay, so he's doing what we're looking for, so let's talk, right? And a final one here, a data analyst with a PhD in computational physics and big data experience, actively looking for a new role in Hamburg, Germany, or French-speaking Europe. So somebody who's a native French speaker, but did her PhD in Hamburg, and had some years of algorithm development and high-performance computing experience. Okay, so this combo she articulated here. She's still in Hamburg and working. Okay, it's 14:26, so this is my call to you for any final questions that if they show up here on the chat, I will pick them up. There was one actually that I overlooked. So Geetha was asking how to choose a career path more specific to AI for social good, responsible AI, or similar impactful decision-making or policy building positions. Actually, Geetha, you do that by making absolutely clear that this is what you're looking for. So this is what I was just talking about, your mission statement. You need to articulate that. And my personal advice on this would be to go and look for companies that are doing that. For companies that are building a responsible AI solution. So there are now startups specifically building tools for responsible AI, or a large corporate that is committed to having an ethical or responsible AI team, or to a company reducing our carbon footprint or doing something around climate change. And I would go and work for a company. I would not in the first instance advise you and go and work in the public sector. Now, it's not only because the public sector is lagging behind, but this is also true. The public sector is simply lagging behind, but mainly because actually as a first learning experience, I would choose a more dynamic environment if I were you. And I would choose a more dynamic environment to learn faster and get better at what you're doing. And then if you would like to switch to the public realm or work in the public sector or work for a government or a policy-making organization, great, please go and do that. We really need more people doing that. And then this is the thing, you do it 5 years and you really become better at this. And then you go and offer your skills, because then you have the experience and the practice to lead with confidence, to go in and build your team and actually make a change. And that's the point. I think that if you go in as a junior in the public sector, you're not likely to have a lot of impact and you'll probably be frustrated personally. So first go somewhere where you can upgrade your skills. You can do, as we had at the very beginning, 4 years to senior, 5 years to lead, show that you can do this, then switch over to the public or the policy-making sector and precisely do that. Lead something that is impactful, have your own team, and really make a difference. And we'd all be grateful if you can do that, because we need more of that data science for social good. Okay, so this actually goes very well to this, that I want you to choose your industry. We've already spoken about that. Go and find some stuff on the internet that helps you to understand where you want to go. If you already know where you want to go, good, go there. You can go and find a market map on the top 100 AI startups in 2021. I think 2022 has also just been released. That helps you also for orientation, because they group the startups into categories, so finance, health, automotive, cybersecurity, marketing. It quickly helps you generate ideas for plan A, plan B, plan C, where you want to go. Then even more specific, the AI and fintech market map exists, so that then gives you in specific industries more ideas. You can also search by company, AI startups in Germany 2021, other companies, France, Europe, around Europe, United States, and so on. So there's more like this, all to be found. And since it's 2:30 Central European time, I want to leave off with a thought that we started. So I think that now that we've crossed this threshold to 500,000 practitioners, possibly with this year, we're nearing 1 million. We are in the decade where AI is going to be organized at scale. More and more companies will have larger teams. This is super for you because you have powerful teams around you from which you can learn fast, where you can grow fast, you can grow into a responsibility. As companies build up capabilities, there's more impact to be had. It means more rewarding careers, more interesting careers, more impact for you, better teams. And yes, of course, companies will sometimes fail. They may muck up their data infrastructure. Maybe something isn't working. There will be setbacks. But overall, I think the outlook is great because we are now in this decade where industries generally will be organizing analytics and machine learning at scale. And that really is the time, the most interesting time ahead of you in the next 10 years if you choose this career path, which is why we're running this event and encourage you to do so. Okay, that was my plea at the end. Our time is up, our 90 minutes are up. I don't at the moment see any final questions popping up in my chat. So thank you very much, everybody who's stayed with us till the end. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for staying with us to the end. Good luck. If you want to find the AI Guild on the web, theguild.ai. If you want to find myself or any of the others via LinkedIn, you can do so and connect. And other than that, enjoy the rest of your day and goodbye for now.